Well, time now for the AM News. Now, coming up, new arrangements at major entry point to screen foreigners visiting the country because of Ebola scare. Outgoing Minister of Health directs CEO of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Reverend Albert Boche, to step down. And government accuses striking polytechnic lecturers of bad faith. Also, Asamoah Gyan, the captain of the Black Stars, finally speaks of Castro's disappearance and hopes he's found alive. Well, the Ministry of Health has issued a press statement. In it, it's bringing to the notice of the public the current Ebola situation in the sub-region and particularly in Ghana. It says that Guinea, Sierra Leone and Liberia continue to report increasing number of Ebola cases. As of 3rd of July 2014, a total of 779 cases, including 481 deaths, had been reported from 6 districts, including Conakry, the capital of Guinea. Ghana had a test case a few days ago with a foreign national and travel history of a visit to one of the affected countries. The person fell sick and was rushed to one of the hospitals, and the clinical presentation led the Ministry of Health to suspect Ebola virus disease. As most of us, the statement says, are aware, specimens have been sent to the Ngochi Memorial Institute for Medical Research and results are negative. We'll bring you more details of the statement that was released by the Ministry of Health in our subsequent bulletins. We'll also get more details here on the AM show. Outgoing Minister of Health, Sherry Aite, has directed the Chief Executive Officer of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, the Reverend Albert Boche, to step down. The following letter has been intercepted by Joy News, and it reads: the Ministry of Health has reviewed the performance of acting chief administrator of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital over the past year, and pursuant to Section Act 525 on functions of a teaching hospital, the functions Teaching Hospital Board under this act shall be subject to such policy directive. The ministry may determine reference also made to Section 17 of Act 525. The minister may issue directives in writing to the council board on matters of policy. The council or board shall comply with the directives. The Korle Bu Teaching Hospital is hereby directed to revert the acting chief executive officer, Reverend Albert Boche, to his position as a board member, appoint the acting medical director, Dr. Samuel Isiama, as the acting chief administrator, pending the appointment of a substantive chief executive. Reverend Albert Boche is required to hand over all Korle Bu Teaching Hospital properties in his possession and provide a comprehensive handing over note to the board chairman and copy same to the Honorable Minister of Health and the incoming chief administrator. Well, ECOWAS is considering the establishment of a national early warning and response mechanism system to help members detect conflict in their early stages so as to prevent them. The mechanism is expected to help resolve conflicts before they degenerate into full-blown violence, such as civil wars and other genocide.
At the 32nd Ordinary Meeting of ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council, members were urged to take a critical look at the draft policy framework for the establishment of the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism in order to make informed recommendations to their heads of state and government for approval. President of the ECOWAS Commission, Kadri
It's very important for us to now begin to focus on the practical steps we will take to make sure that this ECOWAS of ours, which is an ECOWAS of member states, becomes much more responsive to the needs of its people. I would also urge our security services not to see the national early warning and response systems when established as a threat to their traditional roles, but rather take advantage of the information that the system seeks to provide to find solutions to the threats that could lead to disastrous consequences. Maintaining peace and security in our region is a collective task. The earlier we cooperate with each other in all manners of security, particularly in the area of intelligence sharing and information gathering, the better it will be for all of us.
The 32nd Ordinary Meeting of the Commission's Mediation and Security Council was also used to deliberate on measures to consolidate peace and stability in Mali and Guinea-Bissau.
Of particular importance will be the proposal to you of a set of reform measures that need to be supported by ECOWAS and other members of the international community to enable Guinea-Bissau consolidate its democracy. They harped on the need for a political solution to the challenges in northern Mali and called on the government of Mali to take full responsibility for and expedite the preparation and conduct of the inclusive Malian dialogue.
The early warning and response mechanism would be presented to heads of state at the meeting in Accra on July 11 for adoption.
Well, to avoid a repeat of the chaotic traffic situation during the last ECOWAS heads of state meeting in Accra, the police have issued a traffic alert days ahead of an upcoming meeting this weekend. The summit, to be hosted by the ECOWAS chairman, President John Mahama, on July 10 and 11, will, among others, discuss concerns over the spread of Ebola in West Africa, though the traffic arrangements are not so different from what pertained during the last ECOWAS meeting. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Al-Hassan, at a news briefing on Tuesday, said a lot more police officers will be deployed to redirect motorists. Well, still on ECOWAS, the ECOWAS task force working on a single currency for member states has presented its recommendations. Vice President Kwesi Arthur, who received the recommendations on behalf of President Mahama at the Flagstaff House, implored them to deliver within the time frame. My colleague Gifty Andorpia has more.
The task force of ECOWAS Monetary Cooperation Program, chaired by Ghana's Finance Minister Seth Tekbe, also has membership comprising Niger's Finance Minister, Central Bank governors of the 8 member states, the West African Monetary Agency, as well as representatives of the President of Ghana and Niger. The job of the task force is to rationalize institutions and revise a roadmap to the ECOWAS single currency program.
The heads of state agreed to set a goal for 2020 to meet the convergence criteria either before or by that date. So the work of the task force is to look at the actions that will be required. So there are 2 elements. First are the details of what has to be done, which is a revision. You'll recall from the presentation of our own budgets here at home, we often present the primary and secondary criteria, and that's the first element that was reviewed. The committee also reviewed the institutional arrangements and their strengthening, and the third element was a roadmap, to achieve this goal.
An extraordinary session of heads of state and governments in October last year appointed Mahamudu Issoufou of Niger and President John Mahama to oversee a speedy creation of the common currency for ECOWAS. Vice President Emmanuel Arthur expressed confidence in the expertise available to expedite action.
Now we brought the governor for the BCIO so that we together will form a strong monetary union. We should not exceed the mandate that the authority had given us, that the full union would be in 2020. And I know that we agreed on that. So I see that WAMI and WAMA are also here, and I know that we have the technical expertise within these 2 agencies to be able to work achieve the 2020 target.
The recommendations come after the task force held its second meeting here in Accra. Details of the recommendation were, however, disclosed to the Vice President in a closed session. Gifty Andopia, Joy News, Flagstaff House.
Well, government has called for an end to the talk of gloom and despondency in the country, insisting it is working hard to fix the ailing economy. At a news conference to demonstrate its achievements, Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Felix Kwakye Ofosu detailed a wide range of projects and plans he says are being undertaken to improve the well-being of Ghanaians. He says government would not relent on the promise to deliver a better Ghana, describing the country's current situation as a temporary challenge.
The news conference touched on what the government was doing on energy supply, road infrastructure improvement, health, education, among others. On health, the Deputy Minister said government's investment in the sector has already started yielding results across the country.
The government is addressing the healthcare needs of our people in a comprehensive manner. The infrastructure, equipment, and personnel needs of the sector are all receiving urgent attention. As far as infrastructure is concerned, the following projects are being embarked upon to expand access to healthcare for our people in all parts of the country. These projects are as follows: the 600-bed University of Ghana Teaching Hospital, the 420-bed Ridge Hospital Expansion Project, the 500-bed Military Hospital Project in Kumasi, the second phase of the Tamale Teaching Hospital, after the completion of the 400-bed first phase of the project. And you will recall, ladies and gentlemen, that President Mahama commissioned this project when he toured the northern region a few months ago. There is also the police hospital project, which is expected to be expanded up to 600 beds, and then the Upper West Regional Hospital.
On the road sector, he said work on the Gang of Four route, which have stalled for years, was near completion.
At the basic level alone, enrollment has increased by 829,625 in the last 4 years, owing largely to the underlisted interventions aimed at guaranteeing access to education for all our children. A total of 2,064 basic school projects have been under construction since the period under review. 432 of these were funded from regular Government of Ghana sources. The remaining 1,632 are being funded by GET Fund. More than half of these projects have been completed and handed over to the education authorities. Over 100 million exercise books have been distributed since the NDC government started the free exercise book intervention.
According to him, a chunk of government expenditure has gone into educational infrastructure, which has improved access for many children countrywide, reiterating that the NDC administration remains committed to working hard to make life better for the Ghanaian.
The current nationwide power supply challenges have been the result of the unavailability of one, the 330 megawatt TAPCO plant at Abuaze, two, the 110 megawatts of 110 megawatts of the 220 megawatt TICO plant at Abuaze, and the low water inflows at Bui, which do not permit all the three units to be operated during the peak period. The good news, however, ladies and gentlemen, is that the TICO unit, which was down for some time now, resumed full operation a few days ago. One of the two TAPCO units is also expected to resume operation very soon. The other TAPCO unit is expected to resume operation by the end of July. We are monitoring progress of works on these plants to ensure that they are restored to service in decent time. These have been the result of intense efforts on the part of government to resolve temporary challenges in the power generation sector.
Government says the Meet the Press series would be maintained to update the citizenry on happenings in government.
Insurance experts say the sector can only benefit from the emerging oil and gas industry if they build capacity in engineering insurance. At a workshop for insurers in Accra, speakers also urged insurance companies to venture into engineering fields such as building and construction to ensure the growth of the sector.
The insurance sector, although growing steadily, has not seen much involvement in the engineering fields, especially the oil and gas sector. The inadequate capital and absence of the needed technical know-how to ensure the engineering sector remains a challenge for many local insurance companies. The Ghana Insurers Association, in collaboration with their reinsurance partners and CARE, is therefore engaging insurers in a 4-day training to get them equipped for the engineering sector.
Engineering is one of the complex areas of insurance. Other classes is more easier, but engineering is a complex issue. When you talk of oil and gas, it's interrelated. Before you can access the platform, you must do a lot of engineering. When you are talking about bridge construction, it's talking about engineering. Your bidding is engineering. Road construction, you are talking about engineering. So there are a lot of things that's embedded in engineering, and you find that is a field that don't have enough technical know-how. And the reason why we are saying is that we want to make them trainers of trainers. What I mean by trainers of trainers is that when they get back to the office, they should be able to impart the knowledge on their colleagues. Not only on their colleagues, they should be able to utilize it.
He adds that the country stands to benefit hugely in ensuring the oil and gas sector.
Ghana is an emerging economy. You know what I'm saying? With the oil and gas, everything over there, a lot of people are coming. And then a lot of insurance companies are participating in erection oil risks, in bridges construction, in a lot of things. I learned there's a power station that is going to be built in Ghana too, which is undergoing construction. All these things is a challenge to the market. But if a white man come, they will bamboozle with something and they go with all the premium back to their country. Because as they are coming, some people that are coming to...
Well, in our final story this morning, Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan has broken his silence on the accident involving his friend and music partner Castro. The footballer, who also doubles as a musician, has in a statement confirmed Castro and the female companion Jane Bandu were with him at a holiday resort in Ada. All right, we're all keeping our fingers still crossed, hoping that Castro and his friend will come back alive. But that will be it for the AM News this morning. Quickly, I want to run through the top headlines. Arrangements at major entry points to screen foreigners visiting the country has been put in place because of Ebola scare. And also in the news this morning, the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, the Ministry of Health has actually directed the acting chief executive of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to step down and make way for another. All right. Also, you just heard there, Asamoah Gyan has finally spoken of Castro's disappearance and hopes he's found alive. Coming up next is sports. We'll bring you tidbits of the action yesterday involving Brazil and Germany. And who else to present that is Roland Walker with sports.